But let's move on. Still talking about the roster, still talking about the Ravens methods, tactics, ideas, strategies. Let's talk about Mr. Eric Decosta because I don't think this is a topic. I think what's funny is I think we did this topic one of the first few episodes we ever did. And we used to do a segment called Is This Stupid? Maybe we should bring it back. If y'all want Is This Stupid back, it's a lot of fun because you know what? Here we go. We're doing an Is This Stupid segment right now. Is This Stupid is a section where typically we bring a question to the table and we say, hey, this is a hot take that we have. Is this stupid? And sometimes we agree with it. Sometimes we don't. We just analyze the take. All right. This is not me saying this. This is not Joshua saying this. This is analyzing the take. So I'm going to give the take and then I will give the explanation on why maybe someone would believe that take. Eric Decosta is a bad general manager. Is this stupid? Now, here's the reason why people may be saying this. First off, looking at the Ravens roster, they've built a terrible wide receiver core. All right. That I think is the biggest standout right there.
Yep.
Terrible wide receiver core. The other thing is, he hasn't been involved in the coaching decisions, hasn't been involved in trying to push Harbaugh to fire his offensive coordinator. He hasn't been involved in trying to push Harbaugh to really let go of his friend or even maybe letting go of Harbaugh. The final thing is drafting. And I think a lot of times we give credit to Eric Decosta in his drafts, but he's had a lot of misses. And he's had a lot of drafts where players have not done what was anticipated. And there have been some mind-boggling selections, guys like Ben Mason that are selected. And then there's players that we draft where it's like, dude, what? We don't even use them. What's the point of drafting Miles Boykin? What's the point of drafting these guys and then even trading them away when we think we have a stud, a guy like Sean Wade? And so it's like he hasn't drafted a star yet. And he uses first round picks on guys that, maybe aren't as necessary as other positions. I know we both really love Tyler Linderbaum, but at the same time, it's a major question. Like Ravens didn't draft a wide receiver last year. Why did they not draft one? They traded away their wide receiver one. They didn't draft one. They didn't sign one. So what are they doing? And they do that a lot where we look into the draft and we're like, yeah, they need this position. And every analyst says they need this position. And then they go in and they don't draft it. Joshua, Eric Decosta is a bad GM. Is this stupid?
It's hard. It's hard to say. Only for the simple fact that, so many people give praise to, former general manager Ozzie Newsome, and Eric Decosta has been in this facility for so long, and he's been studying under Ozzie Newsome. The only thing I can say that he does better than Ozzie is his midseason trades. I'll give him that. The Yannick Ngakoue, it didn't turn out the way we wanted. I feel like it could. If Mike McDonald was here the same year Yannick Ngakoue was here, I think it could have been better. He's obviously doing better, out there. I'm about to say Oakland, Las Vegas. He was turning up, better than what he was doing here. The Marcus. Even this offseason, picking up Marcus Williams. Getting a guy that's still in his prime, that's still a top safety, plays good ball. He's been proving himself when healthy this year. Roquan Smith, I gotta give him a shout out to that. But like you said, man, when this came to the draft thing, man, it's not been hitting, and we don't have a second round pick for the upcoming draft. So that first rounder, it has to be on the money. I don't know if we're going to go corner first. I don't know if we're going to go wide receiver first. I don't even know where we're going to be placed in this year's draft because, unfortunately, with how bad we've been playing, we have been winning games, and we still are in contention to be in the playoffs. That's the bad thing about it. And you know what? I think when it comes to EDC, I don't think he has that cutthroat yet ability as Ozzie, meaning letting people go or putting the pressure on the coach. Because at one point, Ozzie Newsome, I believe he did wholeheartedly put pressure on John on letting go, said OCs and things of that nature. So it's hard to say, but right now, and this will be his 4th year.
Yeah, it'll be his fourth. I don't know, kind of full year. He'll hit the 4th year benchmark, I think, in 2023.
Okay, and I don't want to say like I don't want to say that we that we kind of that we're judging it too early, but at the same time, it's like, okay, we've been a playoff contention team for a while now, and still that you have this quarterback in the pocket. You had him on his rookie contract, and you still haven't did the best of work to um, get him real upgrades. Like I said, the Tyler Linderbaum pick, previously, that did upset me for the simple fact that we did jump back in the first round, but we get a big guy. I feel like a big guy that could possibly slip to the second round, or even on a David Ojabo. Like, I know everybody loved it, and David was originally a 4th rounder, but to me personally, because of that injury, I feel like he still would have been available in the 3rd round, and we could have got a George Pickens or any other type of wide receiver that would have helped out Rashad Bateman, in any type of given way. Because at the end of the day, your players, if they're injury prone or not. And I'm not about to ready to write off Rashad Bateman, but right now he's showing that he's a little bit of injury prone. So me as a general manager, I'm gonna say, yeah, I like Rashad. He's a young guy, still got him on his rookie contract and everything of that nature. But I still need to get some help from my from my MVP. And we didn't do that. So right now I'm going to say because he's been at it for 4 years, and I don't feel like he's been making the best decisions, and I don't feel like he's really been. I don't. He don't get you would think he would do the opposite of what Ozzie would do. Ozzie, harped and loved his defense. Okay, Eric, it's your time to harp and love on the offense. You ain't been doing it like that. And anybody can always say, "Oh, well, he did draft running backs and wide receivers." He drafted mid-tier wide receivers. We're being honest. He drafted mid-tier guys at running back. Nothing against J.K. Dobbins. When J.K. Dobbins was available, he balls. He for sure. When Hollywood was available, he was healthy. He balled. But at the end of the day, who wants to keep on having a guy for 5 games out for the rest of the season, or 3-4 weeks and stuff like that? It's just not. It's not good. It takes away from the team, the growth, development, and progression. That messes up the momentum. That messes up the momentum when we go into games, because they're like, well, damn, we're without our guy. So right now, I don't feel like it's a bad take. I feel like EDC is a bad GM at this moment.
Yeah, and it's something where it's just like Eric Decosta was thrown into a situation where it's like, okay, you have a new franchise quarterback, try and build around him. And he had to look to his coach, the coach that's been there. He said, hey, coach, here's your guy. What do you want? And John Harbaugh, being the guy that has no idea how to deal with X's and O's, he looks at it and goes, hey, Greg, what do you want? And Greg says, I want a run game. And I don't care about wide receivers. And if you build a great defense, that'll be fantastic. Let's go defense and run game. And so that's what he does. And he builds it. And I think he did a very good job building exactly what I feel like was asked of him by the coaches. Because as a general manager, you're supposed to, give your coaches what you want. And I think the biggest thing that Eric Decosta does really well is value. And I think he's done very well in trading assets and trading for assets. I think the Roquan Smith deal was very good. The Calais Campbell deal was fantastic. The Kare Vedvik deal, unbelievable. Marcus Peters, great acquisition. And again, Joshua, you brought it up, Yannick Ngakoue. I feel like that was a really good move. The problem is we didn't have the right coordinator. I feel like some of the other draft selections, they could have been better if we had a different offensive coordinator, if we had a different coach, if we had the right, player development. But instead, we've drafted these guys where it's like, okay, these guys were good in college and they don't have it in the NFL. Why is that? That's typically down to scheme. That's typically down to player development and coaching. And because if one guy misses, that's, whatever. Like, okay, maybe that's on the player. Like, maybe he's not as good or didn't have the work ethic or injuries derailed him. But the Ravens have drafted and drafted and drafted and drafted wide receivers, but they don't work out. At some point, you have to recognize that maybe it's not the receivers, because it's not like the Ravens have gone out and taken receivers where people go, whoa, first round him? No, they took Hollywood Brown, the consensus number one wide receiver in that draft. Were there players behind him that were better? Yes. But going into the draft, the thought was, in almost every single ranking, it was Hollywood Brown is the number one wide receiver in this draft. Then they end up taking Miles Boykin in I believe the third round. And it was like, and when that was selected, nobody was going, whoa, they took Miles Boykin. They go, oh, Miles Boykin on the Ravens with Lamar. That's actually kind of nice. He's a big body, go up and make those big plays. He can really stretch the field, do things for this offense. And it was like, okay, we get hyped. And then we see Greg Roman with him, and we're like, wait a minute. These guys aren't used properly. And then we draft more guys the next year. And we get ourselves Devin Duvernay, and we get James Prochet. And Joshua, I know we were so excited about them because we look at it and we go, oh, Devin Duvernay, this guy's like Deebo Samuel. You can run him the football. You can throw it to him short underneath. He's a really good over the middle slot wide receiver. James Prochet, jump balls, right? That's what he was good at SMU. And when the Ravens drafted him, guys like Daniel Jeremiah, I remember saying, like, James Prochet was maybe the steal of the draft, especially at the wide receiver position. And yet they come in and they're not utilized at all, I think, in the way that they need to be. Devin Duvernay is used as a gadget guy, which I'm fine with to a certain extent, where it's like, okay, yeah, you can use him on a jet sweep, but also maybe, hey, throw him the football. Like, throw him out on a route. Instead, it's like, no. The next year they go out and they draft who did we draft after Prochet and Devin Duvernay? I can't even think of who they drafted. Tylan Wallace and who was the other one? Was it just Tylan Wallace?
It might have been.
Oh, and Bateman. Tylan Wallace and Bateman. That's what it was. Okay. And we go and we draft Bateman, and everyone's like, that's a value pick. Like, that's where he should have gone. His comp is Keenan Allen. And when did we ever see Rashad Bateman running routes like Keenan Allen? He doesn't even run the in routes like Keenan Allen does. He doesn't run out routes. He runs deep posts. He runs, go routes. He doesn't run the slants. It's like they're all used so poorly to where it looks bad on the draft, where it's like, hey, maybe it's not the draft. Maybe the edge rushers that were taken. I mean, we look back at it, rest in peace, Jalen Ferguson, sack daddy.
Yeah.
How much did Wink hinder his ability? Because Wink has said so many times, I don't need edge rushers. I'm going to get anybody sacks, right? Like, oh, I'm just going to blitz. We've seen Mike McDonald come in using an older version of Justin Houston. And it's just like, hey, yeah, wow, look at that. Schematically, he's able to make it work very well.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, okay, maybe people are looking back at picks like that where it's like, we've been thinking, oh, that was a terrible pick. And that's like, wait a minute. Could have actually really worked if we had the right scheme of player development, but we didn't. And so it's like, I feel like Eric Decosta has done a very good job in evaluating talent. The problem is he's very good at evaluating player talent. I don't think he's very good at evaluating coaching talent, because I think I talked about this last week or on stream. When you come into a new job, you don't want to fire the guy that's been there longer than you, even though you're their boss. And you definitely don't want to fire your buddy who you've been working with for the past probably decade in the scouting room, getting ready for the draft as Ozzy's, right hand. You don't want to be the guy that comes in and fires the coach. And I think that's his real downfall is the lack of firing the coach, because I feel like the coach has a major impact on what is done with the team. And Eric Decosta is listening to his coach. And when he says, hey, what do you want me to do? And Harbaugh says, I want this. He goes, okay. And I think he's giving Harbaugh exactly what he wants, because Harbaugh every year goes, this is a great group of wide receivers.
All the time.
Every time. He's like, this is the exact kind of thing that we're looking for, this group of guys. And it's like, what? Who's we looking for this? You and Greg Roman? Those are about the only two people that are looking for that. So I feel like Eric Decosta is very good. I feel like the way that he's lacking is, his inability to make his own mark and try and do things on his own and take that step of saying, hey, you know what, we're going to do this instead. Take the Sonny Weaver approach, right? Head coach wants Bo Callahan. That's all he wants. And he goes, you know what? I'm sorry. We're not going with Bo Callahan. I've got this running back for you. Shout out to Mr. Chadwick Boseman. And we're going to get him instead. And I feel like Eric DeCosta's got to make that, start making those types of decisions where it's like, okay, we're going to do this. And it reminds me of why the Titans general manager got fired. He went, now he did it in the bad way. He went against his coach and he traded away A.J. Brown. And there's a video of Mike Vrabel when the trade gets announced, standing up in the Titans thing and going, and just walking out. Like, he's like, oh my gosh, we just lost A.J. Brown. Sometimes you have to make a coach a little bit upset. And if you do it right, your team's the better for it. If you do it wrong, it's a risk. I feel like Eric DeCosta hasn't been risky enough. But I feel like he is very good. It's just, if he starts taking those risks, I think he could be even better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'll give you that. I definitely give you that on that note.